Suvarna Bhagini, Hari Om. You can start chanting.
Namaskaram, madam. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पङ्कजं कलिमलप्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुल्लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। धन्यवादः भगिनी। नमो नमः।
धन्यवादः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ Param Varishtam Brahmishtam Paramanandarupinam Paramarthanandayatim Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. So Lord Krishna talked about the various spiritual disciplines through which a person can reach the ultimate goal of Brahman, otherwise called Paramatma or Bhagavan. And after talking about these disciplines, right, he talked about the destination of Brahman in one verse, which is the 6th verse, in which Brahman, otherwise called Bhagavan, and here Krishna is referring to Brahman as himself, right? In its nature, basically, was defined in one shloka as the eternal and all-pervading consciousness principle, which is the absolute reality. That means it does not fall within time and space. It is transcendental, right? Beyond time and space, transcendental consciousness principle. So this definition we saw in a very important verse, the 6th verse. Natat bhasayate suryaha na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatvan nivartante tadhama paramam mama. We saw that, and we also saw the parallels in Kathopanishad as well as Mundakopanishad. The sun does not illuminate neither the moon nor the fire. It is my supreme abode attaining which they do not return. We saw this in detail, verse 6. And from the 7th verse onwards, Lord Krishna says that Brahman, the transcendental reality alone, is available in the transactional world also, both as Jiva, the experiencer, as well as Jagat, the experienced universe. In Sanskritam, the Bhoktru Jiva, the experiencer Jiva, and the Bhogya Prapancha or Jagat, that is experience. Both of them belong to the empirical transaction phase, and both of them are not separate from Bhagavan. Thus, Bhagavan, right, the absolute consciousness alone, appears as both Jiva as well as Jagat. So, naturally, the question will come, how come that original consciousness can appear as both Jiva, the experiencer in this world, as well as the world itself, right? And Krishna gives the explanation. We have seen this before in the 7th chapter also, very important. We saw the concepts of para and apara prakriti there, right? So when the all-pervading consciousness is obtained within the body-mind complex, that itself becomes the transactional empirical one. Right? Just as we saw the example in the 7th chapter, we saw the example of all-pervading space, right? It cannot be used for any transaction. That is why when you purchase a piece of land, even though space is available, you cannot do any transaction with it, right? So to convert it into something useful, you have to build walls, then the very same open space gets converted into enclosed space. And the enclosed space will become dining room, kitchen, hall, etc. And then, we have a Grihapravesha. And then we start using it for transactions. Then a room where you're sitting is called the sitting room, right? Because why are we able to sit there and talk, etc.? Because the space is enclosed within 4 walls, right? So the same space, which was all pervading, when it gets enclosed, becomes very useful, right? So similarly, the all-pervading consciousness is not available for any transaction. But when the very same consciousness is enclosed within the body-mind complex, that consciousness alone first makes the mind sentient, and then the body sentient. Thus, the consciousness is available in the individual body-mind complex, making it as a sentient living being. Thus, consciousness enclosed in the body, or consciousness reflected in the body, which we have seen in Tattva Bodha, That is what we refer to as Jivatma. Exactly like the original sun, which is reflected on the moon and on a Paurnami night, it will be able to, moon with the reflected or borrowed light, is able to illumine the earth, right? So, what happens? The same sun, when it is reflected in the night and the moon is providing that light, the reflected light, it is called moonlight, right? So similarly, one and the same Paramatma, right, available in literally every moon, that's the body mind complex, is referred to as the Jivatma, right? So the Jivatma, the Chaitanya Tattvam there, does not belong to the body mind complex, it is borrowed from Paramatma. Exactly like the moonlight does not belong to the moon, it is borrowed from the sun. Similarly, consciousness, the Jivatma, in every body-mind complex comes from the original Paramatma. When I am an informed person, when I experience the moonlight, I understand that it is none other than sunlight. Similarly, when the wise people see the Jivatma in everyone, they understand the Jivatma is not the consciousness belonging to each of these bodies, but it is one and the same Paramatma only. And it is the glory of the Paramatma that I am able to experience different bodies. Therefore, Krishna said, I am the original sunlight like Paramatma, and my own Amsha, reflection alone, is available in every body mind complex, which otherwise is inert matter only, right? So therefore, whatever enclosed consciousness is there within the body mind complex, it is renamed as Jivatma. So directly Paramatma blesses the mind. That's the first step. Then the mind becomes sentient. Like the moon borrowing the sunlight, the mind borrows consciousness from Paramatma. And having borrowed consciousness, the mind is able to lend consciousness to the physical body. So thus the mind becomes what? Basically, it's like a pipeline, right? So for the body to borrow consciousness, mind first has borrowed consciousness from the original consciousness, right? So when we borrow consciousness or reflected consciousness in the mind leaves the body becomes a dead body, right? So in Shastras, in several texts, this mind is referred to as Sakshyam because it is the first object which is becoming sentient through the borrowed consciousness or reflected consciousness. And then in turn, that Sakshya mind is what provides consciousness to the body-mind complex, right? That's to the body, right? Not body-mind, body and sense organs, right? Therefore, every life body should remind me of Bhagavan only. Therefore, wise people see every Jivatma as the image of Paramatma. The ignorant person does not know this fact. Therefore, he misses the Paramatma. The wise person can never miss the Paramatma because every Jivatma, right? That is because the body is sentient and we know that Jivatma is available in every body, right? And Krishna says in every transaction that life is evident, and not only during the transaction, even at the time of death, when it vacates the body, right? That time also you are aware of the Jivatma, right? So, when the death comes, Jivatma takes the mind and sense organs from the physical body, right? Basically, the mind, Panchaprana, the Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, etc. Then vacates the body and it gets another new body, right? So, basically, Paramatma itself is Jivatma, an Amsha, referred to here as an Amsha, right? There's both life, the intermediary transactions that we do, that is the birth, then the intermediate transactions, as well as death. All these three prove the presence of Jivatma, which is otherwise the image of Paramatma. So we actually had completed verse 10. Ukramantam sitam vapi bhunjanam va vinanvitam. Vimuda nanu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. So the deluded ones do not recognize him who leaves the body, who resides in the body, who experiences the objects, and who has gunas. So those who have the eye of wisdom recognize him, right? So we saw the Kathopanishad, Kenopanishad mantra also, right? Shrotrasya Shrotra, etc. Continuing. Yatantu yoginaschainam pasyantyatmanyavasthitam yatantopyakritatmanah nainam pasyantyachetasaha Nainam pashyantya chetasaha. So here Krishna says to recognize Bhagavan in the form of the invisible consciousness which pervades the body and environs the body, right? To recognize this invisible consciousness, the intellect must be subtle. A gross intellect will recognize gross matter, right? But to recognize the subtle and invisible principle, the mind has to be sharpened, right? That is why they suggest the practice of meditation or upasana to make the mind subtler and subtler, finer and finer to recognize the invisible Atma, right? So the Upanishad talks about the meditation of Pancha Bhutani or the 5 elements, right? If you look at the 5 elements, they are all graded matter only. All 5 are basically matter only. The earth, the Prithvi Tattvam, right, is the grossest one. Why do we call it the grossest one? Basically, the 5 sense organs, all 5 can discern the earth. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa and Gandha, right? Basically sound, touch, form, taste and smell with respect to Prithvi Tattvam, right? That is why it is considered as grossest. Then you come to the next one, it is Jalam, right? It's the next Panchabhutam. It is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa and Rasa, right? Now water does not have smell, right? Unless of course these days it is polluted, right? But otherwise it doesn't have smell. The pure water has only 4 gunas, right? So it can be recognized by only 4 sense organs. Then Agni, right? In Tattva Bodha or in Introduction to Vedanta, we saw that Agni has got Shabda, Sparsha and Rupa. It has got a form in the form of a flame, right? And it has Sparsha and Rupa, right? You do feel the touch of it, and you can also see it's visible, right? Agni. Vayu is even subtler. It has Shabda and Sparsha sensitivity, right? Both sense organs can sense it, right? And Akasha does not have any of these, right? Shabda Guna alone is in the form of Omkara, right? And that is the only thing that is in Akasha, right? So, space has got only 1 guna. Therefore, among the 5 elements, the subtlest one is Akasha. Therefore, to make the mind very fine, what do we have to do? Right? First, we have to do Prithvi Dhyanam, then Jala Dhyanam, right? In Chandogya Upanishad, 14 meditations are prescribed to sharpen the mind. Nama Brahma Upasana, Vag Brahma Upasana, Chitta Brahma Upasana, right? And each one of the Panchabhutanis may you meditate upon. So when you come to Vayu, you can at least feel Vayu, but you cannot see. When you come to Akasha, you know that space is all pervading. You know the space accommodates things, but you can only sense the Akasha, right? You can sense the space, right? So empty space, somehow you recognize. So may you meditate upon the all-pervading, formless Akasha, which accommodates everything, right? Which is not contaminated by anything, which is formless. So, Akasha Dhyanam is supposed to be a upasana which prepares our mind. And once we have practiced, the mind has become sensitive enough for the material Akasha, right? From basically, it is sensitive enough to discern the, we call it also material only, achetana akasha, right? So then from there we have to go to Chaitanya Atma Upasana, right? So which pervades the body. Just as Akasha pervades the whole world, right? Here the Chaitanya Atma pervades the whole body, right? And what is the proof? The very fact that the body is sentient, right? And that mind which has been refined to grasp that fine consciousness, right? The mind is a refined mind if it can grasp the fine consciousness, right? So basically sharpening the mind, right, is required, and Akasha Upasana is a stepping stone even before Chaitanya Atma Upasana, right? Without that you cannot grasp Bhagavan who is available in the body as that invisible consciousness, right? So the second line, Akritat Manaha, right? So those seekers of self-knowledge, Akrita Atmanaha, Atma means here the mind. Akrita means unrefined mind, which has not practiced Upasana Yoga, right? The first 6 chapters of the Gita had Karma Yoga, right? Next 6 chapters focused on Upasana Yoga. So Karma Yoga purifies the mind and Upasana Yoga refines the mind, right? So Akritatma, right? If the mind is not made fine and sensitive, such a mind is called Akritatma, unrefined mind. Yatantaha api, even though they come to Jnana Yoga, even though you attend classes, etc., right? It will be like a 5th standard boy going to MSc or MA classes, right? That's the analogy Swamiji always gives, right? So he will not be able to absorb anything, right? In jnanam, right? He can listen, but it will be at best shavanam, right? So Akritatmana yatanta api. Even though he comes to Jnana Yoga, Achetasaha, the people are of unrefined mind, yenam na pashyanti, consciousness remains a word without being clear, right? Without its meaning being clear. So the first line here, yatanto yoginaschayanam Pashyanti Atmanya Vastitam, speaks about a prepared mind, right? Then does that mean that we should all not attend Gita classes? That might be a doubt, right? So, many people ask Swamiji also. He is very clear, he clarifies this. He says, initial classes for an unprepared mind will be Gita Shravanam and it will become Karma Yoga. Right? For an unprepared mind, Gita Shravanam will be Karma Yoga or Upasana Yoga. For prepared mind, Gita Shravanam becomes Jnana Yoga. Therefore, every mind will benefit whether it is Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. That is decided by the type of mind. Right? But the benefit is there for everyone. Right? Therefore, he says Yoginaha. People with refined mind, the ones that are Sadhana Chatushtaya, Sampanna Adhikarinaha Enam Yasantaha. So when they come to Vedanta Shravanam straight away for Gita study, for them, right, such people who have a refined mind, for them this becomes a Jnana Yoga and therefore Pashyanti. They are able to discern the difference between the material body and the non-material consciousness. Atmani Avasthitam. Right? Avasthitam here. Word basically Atmani means body. Right? In the material body it is present. Avasthitam. Right? The non-material consciousness is present and they are able to discern that. Right? So Swamiji always gives this very famous example. Right? He says, you take your hand. Right? Now I experience my hand. Now in this hand, I can experience I have a ring, I can experience this finger, I can experience I have 5 fingers, I have lines here. I experience a lot of things in the hand. Maybe my nail, the size of it, maybe I didn't wash properly or I cleaned it properly. Maybe I have soap on my hand. All that I discern, right? But when I'm seeing this, other than this, when I'm seeing my hand, there is something here which is other than the hand, which we miss. unless we are careful and we are discerning. What is that? The light principle of God. There is light here, right? The formless light becomes visible when there is a hand, but the formless light continues to be there all over in the same way even after I remove the hand, right? So consciousness is recognizable when the body is there. But even when the body is gone, the Chaitanyam continues. I have to appreciate this with an extremely sensitive mind. Therefore, Pashyanti, right? So, very, very important. And in order to discern this, Shankaracharya writes an elaborate bhashyam about this. He says, in introduction to Vedanta, we saw sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, and we said shamadhi shatka sampatti, the third discipline, right? Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutvam, Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi. Right? So Shamaha, mental refinement or mental quietude or mind control, right? Now, the connection, as Shankaracharya says, is in the 16th chapter, Krishna is going to talk about Daily Sampat, values, right? And I also talked to you about the 13th chapter. Pujit Swamiji Dayananda Saraswati has written a book on value of values. Why it is important is the daily sampat and practice of values is important for us to develop Shamaha, and Shamaha being part of Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti plays a very, very critical role, right, in Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, and therefore in discerning this teaching, right? Because you need an extremely subtle intellect. So that's the connection basically. And Shankaracharya talks about this elaborately in Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Sara Sangraha, right? Which is a text which covers several of these prerequisites or what is important for a Vedantic student. Continuing. Yadadityagatam tejaha Yadadityagatam tejaha Jagadbhasayate khilam Jagadbhasayate khilam Yachandramasi yachagno Yachandramasi yachagno Tattejo viddhi mamakam Tattejo viddhi mamakam. With the previous shloka, Lord Krishna completes the first topic, and that topic is Paramatma, the transcendental consciousness which is available in the body, and Jivatma, the transactional consciousness or empirical consciousness. Paramatma, the transcendental consciousness, is beyond time and space. And when it is available in the body-mind complex as a Jivatma, right, it makes the body alive and sentient, and it is this Jivatma which is the experiencer of the universe. So this, the first part of the discussion is Paramatma is in a way the experiencer Jivatma. So now Krishna enters into another equally important topic that was from 7 to 11, the previous topic. Now from the 12th verse up to 15th verse, Krishna says, not only the Paramatma is in the form of Jivatma, the inert material universe, which is the experienced object, but that is also the Paramatma alone. So it's not only Jivatma, it is also Paramatma, right? So the topic now is the experienced inert universe, the Jagat, is also Paramatma, right? And it is appearing in both the forms. Paramatma appears as Jagat, it also appears as the Jivatma, right? So one Paramatma alone is Achetana Prapancha, Chetana Jiva, right? So Achetana Prapancha means universe, right? Inert universe. And Chetana Jiva means the conscious or sentient individual. So naturally the question will come, how can one Paramatma appear in both ways, right? We say that Paramatma has got a unique power to appear in both forms, and that power is called Maya Shakti, which we saw in the 7th chapter. Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. In the 14th verse of the 7th chapter. So we saw Apara Prakriti, right? So we saw that we use the power, basically we use the power of Paramatma to bifurcate, right, in the form of both Jiva and Jagat, and that power is called Maya Shakti, right? Then how is it possible? We will have that doubt, right? For that, Vedanta says that Bhagavan himself has given a model for understanding this concept. Bhagavan has given an example. What is that? Our dream experience is the model for understanding Paramatma, bifurcating himself as Paramatma, who's got Maya Shakti and basically the Jagat itself, right? Just as we, through our Nidra Devi, we have Nidra Shakti, which is a miniature form of Maya Shakti, the sleeping power, right? Which we use when we lie down on the bed, and then what happens? The moment I go to sleep, right, and I create a dream world, and then I enter the dream world, right? So the experiencer of the dream, right, and the experienced universe, both are the same person, right? Because there is also somebody experiencing, right, outside, and basically the dream person is experiencing the dream universe, the mountains, rivers, etc. Right? So sometimes we are going in a train and somebody has suddenly stolen away the suitcase, you start running behind the things and then you wake up. That world is gone, the dreamer is gone, right? So I become the dreamer, Jivatma, right? The experiencer. And I'm experiencing a world also that, which is dream world, which is basically subject, object, and the experiencer. All of them are sentient, right? That is basically the person who is experiencing the dream is sentient, and the rest of the dream world is insentient, right? The mountain is inert, the rivers are inert, etc. Right? So if we have got Nidra Shakti to create a dream world and divide in the form of experiencer and experience, one Paramatma with his Maya Shakti divides himself into Jiva, the experiencer, and Jagat. Therefore, Krishna says, Arjuna, I am the Jiva, the very you, the experiencer. I myself appear as the universe also. So, Jiva aham, Jagat aham, right? Aham eva, basically. Ivaha, well, basically it means aham eva, idagum sarvam, right? We saw in we see in the Upanishad. So sarvam Vishnu Mayam Jagat, right? So everything is Vishnu only. Therefore, the conclusion is what? Everything is one Bhagavan only. So Krishna wants to say, I am the entire universe, the inert universe consisting of umpteen materials, right? And if Krishna has to enumerate, he can go on and on because the universe is Maya, right? So he takes 3 samples as examples here, right? And he takes 3 of them from the creation. He takes Surya Shakti, Chandra Shakti, and Agni Shakti. So the power in the sun, Krishna uses the word Tejaha. Instead of Shakti, he uses the word Surya Tejaha, Chandra Tejaha, and Agni Tejaha, right? So basically they are the lights, right? So before electricity came, these are all the only lights that are possible. No transaction is possible without these lights, right? So basically, there are 3 types of lights that are being discussed here, right? So, Surya Prakasha during daytime, right? All transaction during daytime that happen with Surya Prakasha. During night, especially on Paurnami night, Chandra Prakasha, and on Amavasya night, when both are not there, Agni Prakasha. And on Amavasya night, right, we use Agni Prakasha because both sun and moon are absent, right? And that is why for Vishwarupa Ishvara, we speak of 3 eyes. Bhagavan has got Surya, Chandra, Agni, Lochana. So we say Surya, Chandra, Agni, Lochanaya Namaha. Right? One of the names of Vishwarupa Ishvara is one who has got 3 eyes, Surya, Chandra, and Agni. Right? Not only that, Surya gives us so much of solar energy. Right? And pranic healers also use this Prana Shakti from Suryaha, right? So according to Shastra and even traditional farming, the agriculture, they say that all the seeds and plants get their nourishment from Chandra Agni. Therefore, they're very particular about the right fortnight for planting, the seeds, the fertilizers, etc. Right? So Krishna says all nutrients in the plants come from the Chandra Agni, and not only that, right, the fire that is down on the earth not only exists in the form of external fire, but as Agni within our own stomach as the digestive fire, which cooks the food the second time. Assuming that we eat cooked food, outside it gets cooked first and then it gets cooked inside the stomach, right? Vaishwanara Agni. And Krishna says, I am Surya Tejaha, I am Chandra Tejaha, I am Bhauma Tejaha, right? Means fire on the earth. Right? Within the stomach, I am in the form of digestive fire. We will talk about it in the next shloka also. Right? So, yad aditya gatam tujaha, right? Just as the solar power or energy which gives light and prana shakti, right? So in Surya Namaskara mantra, the glory of Sri Bhagavan is talked about, right? So modern science, of course, understands the importance of Surya Bhagavan, right? So the water formation, the rains, etc., right? All because of Surya Bhagavan. That is why we considered it very, very important, the Surya. And even in the Gayatri mantra, like Tat Savitur Varenyam is supposed to be basically the whole, the essence of the Rigveda, right? Is praying. It's a powerful mantra which is glorifying Surya Bhagavan only. Waking up in the morning, we should actually welcome the Pratyaksha Surya Devata, right? Therefore, right? Krishna says, I'm giving you darshanam every day, right? You don't have to go to Tirupati and wait for my darshanam now. Venkatachalapati, you can see me as the sun every day from your homes, right? I'm ready for every day. I'm available for you to have darshanam of me, right? So, Pratyaksha Devata Suryaha, therefore Krishna says, yet Aditya Gatam Tejaha. So, the brilliant energy of light of the Surya, Akhilam Jagat Vasate, which illumines and influences the whole universe. It energizes the whole universe. In Gayatri Mantra, the Tejaha is called Vargaha Savitu Varenyam Vargaha, right? Varenyam means noble, auspicious, sacred, right? And Vargaha means Tejaha. So, Tat Mamakam Vidhi Arjuna, you understand that Tejas, right? That Tejas, which is also only me. Where the Chandramasi, that Surya Prakasha alone gets transferred to the moon, so that then in the night, when the sun is not available, the moon can bless us. Right? So the sun indirectly blesses through the moon. Therefore, Yaktejaha Chandramasi, which is there in the moonlight also, Tat Mamakam Vidhi, know that also, understand Arjuna. Right? So, basically, our lives, if you see, where the calendars or almanacs, where day and night is based on sun and city is based on moon. So our life is governed both by Surya Ayanam as well as Chandra Ayanam. And therefore, main note that that also is myself. Then yet now in the fire also, right? Rigveda actually begins with the worship of Agni. Agni, Ede, Namaskaromi, etc. Right? So I start the day by worshipping Agni through using a fire called Gardapatya Agni. Those days it was very important to start this fire once a person enters the Grihastha right? And this Gardapatya Agni used to remain until the person passed away, and then it would be joined with that final fire. Right? So If something happened to that fire in between, they would do prayachittam to kindle it again those days, right? So nowadays, very rarely, there are a few Agnihotra people who actually follow this, right? So, Agnau yat tejaha asti, right? Suryaha Tejah Mamakam Vidhi, then Chandraha, then Agnihi. Right? They all belong to me, my own expression only. Continuing. Gama Vishya Bhutani, Gama Vishya Bhutani, Dharayanyaham Dharayanyaham Pushnami Choshadhi Sarvaha, Pushnami Aushadhi Sarvaha, Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha, Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha, Pushnami Chaushadhihi. Right? We see the meaning. The solar light and energy and heat are so powerful that the Surya Bhagavan, though it remains crores of miles away, he still sends the light to us, and through the light he blesses the earth and the earthly being in varieties of manner. Vitamin D deficiency, we know it comes if we are not exposed to sunlight for certain hours every day, right? So, the Shakti or the Balam comes from Surya, very important. Jasa means Shakti, Balam, energy, nutrition. Gam Vishya, the word Gam here means Prithvi, right? Generally, Gam has the meaning of cow also, Guru Shabda, right? So here it is Prithvi. So Prithveen Avishya, right? In this context, Prithveen Avishya means entering, right? And I sustain, basically as Surya Tejaha, right? The solar gravitational force alone makes all the planets move around it also. Just remember that all the planets in orbit, right? So Bharayami, I sustain through my power energy, right? Now, of course, we have solar lights, etc., right? But it is all the importance of sunlight. And what about the moonlight? This is based on, as I said, some agriculturists also, validate this, right? And there are a lot of people doing research in this area, right? So Krishna here says, Sarva Oshadihi, all the plant kingdom, I nourish, Aham Pushnami. How? Somaha Bhutva, by being the moonlight. And what type of moonlight? Rasatmakaha, which has got a lot of nutrients and power, right? So I offer that. Through that power, I make sure that I maintain all the plants in the plant kingdom, right? So the seed is also generally kept in the moonlight before it is sown, right? Because the moonlight energizes the seeds, right? So Krishna says, Rasatmakaha, full of energy. The moonlight nourishes all the seeds as well as the entire plant kingdom. Therefore, I am the sunlight, I am the moonlight, right? And I am the Agni Tejaha or Bhoma Agni, the Agni bomb available in the earth, right? On the earth. So the ones available from Surya and Chandra are called Divi Agnihi or Divagnihi, and this one is Bhoma Agnihi. Right? So Krishna tells that in the next verse. Very important verse. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva, Praninam Dehamashritah, Praninam Dehamashritah, Pranapana Samayuktah, Pranapana Samayuktah, Pachamyannam Chaturvidam, Pachamyannam Chaturvidam. So, Bhauma Agni, the fire of the earth, is also divided into two in the Shastra. One is the outer fire, which is a regular fire, which is used for different purposes, and the other one is the internal fire, which is called Samana Pranaha Vaishwanara Agni, right? The digestive fire. right? And Krishna is concentrating on this because without Vaishwanara Agni, we will not be able to digest the food, and without digesting food, we cannot even survive. So our basic survival is because of consuming food. Mere consuming is not enough, it has to be absorbed. That absorption takes place only because of Vaishwanara Agni, and that one is Bhagavan inside us. And it is called Agni because the digestive enzymes are so powerful. It contains acid, right? And therefore they say that if these digestive enzymes are taken out from the stomach and put on a piece of cloth or paper, like exactly like acid, it will immediately corrode or burn them. That much burning power it has got. That is why those enzymes are called Vaishwanara Agni. Even though they burn the paper outside, right? Inside our stomach, Bhagavan has given a beautiful protective lining, right? I think it also has mucus, right? Because of that, those acids don't burn out our own system. It's very nicely insulated. In ulcer, if you see that bacteria H. pylori, right? There's an infection, right, due to that bacteria, and it causes a problem in this balance. And because of which this acid starts eating away the lining itself, right? And that is why you get into trouble, ulcers are developed, etc. The lining gets corroded, right? So the first external cooking is for taste, for the purpose of taste. Now this one is for digesting the food, right? So the nutrients will have to be separated and then transported to the appropriate parts of the body. That's why it is called samanaha, means samekarana karaha samanaha. That which divides, apportions and allots, because different nutrients must be distributed to different parts. Bone requires one type of nutrient, calcium, right? Therefore it apportions, and thereafter Jnana Prana is for distribution, and it is paid through the blood and supply, right? But in stomach alone, all these segregation happens. So Krishna says that segregating Agni, that segregating Agni, Vaishwanara Agni is myself. Therefore, when you are eating food, really it is going to be Bhagavan who is inside the stomach, and therefore in tradition, eating also is considered to be a type of homa, right? And oblations are offered to that devata, and here also there is a homa kunda, our stomach, which is a big homa kunda, right? And that is where the Vaishwanara Agni is operating, right? So in that the fire is there, and we are offering the food. That is why they do Parisheshanam, right? Pranaya Swaha, Apanaya Swaha. Swaha indicates, oh Lord, may you receive the food I am offering to you, and therefore eating is considered to be a fire ritual, and in our tradition it is named Pranagni Hotra, right? So Pranagni Hotra means exactly this, right? So eating is considered Pranagni Hotram to convey the message that it is a sacred act. And that's why we used to never allow us to eat standing. But today, we have these buffet dinners where you permit them to stand and have food, right? And it will become more fashionable. So you have to sit properly and basically do namaskara and offer the food to the Lord who is in your stomach, and then, right? In those days, it was really taken very seriously, and basically this fire, right, is very, very important and revered, right? So homa means it's a fire ritual, right? And if it is a fire ritual, you cannot directly kind of blow the fire, etc., because it is what we say HL in Tamil, right? It is basically the saliva can fall on it, right? So we used to always take care to use a flute-like thing to blow, etc., so that the fire is kindled at the same time our saliva doesn't fall on it, right? Now the question is, when you have to keep the inside Vaishwanara Agni kindled, right? How do you blow? So Lord Krishna says this stomach fire is also maintained by fanning, exactly how you fan the outside fire, right? And the process of inhalation and exhalation, prana and apana, they become the fanning entities, right? Fanning the Vaishwanara Agni, right? Inhalation as well as exhalation. And that is why when you are running, etc., it becomes faster because the food, right? It needs more energy and therefore Vaishwanara Agni is working harder, right? So that is that, right? So actually, you should say you are offering Naivedyam when you are eating. This regularly, Lord Krishna is fanned by Prana and Apana, and I, the Samana Prana, and the Vaishwanara Agni in the stomach of every living being digests the food. It's a very, very important mantra, and that's why the shloka is chanted when we eat food. And in traditional houses, they chant so that the host will chant so that we all remember the Naivedyam offered to the Lord, right? And that is one of the important reasons why we should avoid keeping food for 7 days, 8 days in the refrigerator and then giving old food, right? Because it is meant for God. Therefore, in the olden days, regular cooking was done because it was meant as Naivedyam, right? Cooking was for Bhagavan, right? So, very important, and it was treated very differently, right? So Krishna says, Aham Vaishwanara Bhutva. So by becoming the Vaishwanara Agni, right? Vaishwanara Agni Bhutva, Praninam Devam Ashrita, residing in the body of every living being, and regularly fanned by Prana, Apana, Samana, Yuktaha. Every inhalation and exhalation is fanning the digestive fire. More intense it is, more hunger you will get. So, Prana, Apana, Samana, Yuktaha, I digest Pachami. I digest, which is called the second type of cooking, which happens inside the stomach and right, all types of food, right, the digestive system takes care of. So any type of food that you digest, and therefore Krishna says, I digest all forms of food which are broadly categorized in our tradition as 4 types. Very interesting. I've never seen this anywhere else, right? So, Chaturvidam Annam Pachami, right? Krishna says here, Chaturvidam, 4 types, right? And Krishna does not enumerate what these 4 methods are, but the several commentators have explained this. It is Bhakshyam, Bhojyam, Lehyam, and Chorshyam. Very interesting. Like I haven't seen a parallel like this discussed in the allopathic field or medicine field. Bhakshyam is all types of solid foods which we eat by using our teeth. Being a solid, you cannot directly swallow, so you have to eat and consume. So they come under Bhakshyam. The second type is called Bhojyam. All types of liquid food which we consume directly by drinking, right? And we don't have to use the teeth, right? So that is Bhojyam, right? Bhojyam is the name of the food, the liquid type, right? First one is solid, second one is liquid. The third one is Lehyam, the licking kind. So the example given is that of a mango, like the honey. Honey as a liquid is called Lehyam. Sorry. So because honey you can only taste it by licking. All types of pickles come under Lehyam. All other Ayurvedic Lehyams come under Lehyam. The name comes from Lehyam only. Okay. So you don't require the tea and it's not liquid also, right? It's kind of gooey, right? So that's Lehyam. And the fourth one is called Chorshyam, that which is sucked by using suction pipes. Basically, you use a straw, right? Or you have this lovely rasalu mango, right? You just put a hole in center and then just suck it up and it comes into your mouth. So that is Chorshyam, right? So you have to blow hair and then make it big and suck it up, right? So the sugarcane itself when you want to use, not the sugarcane juice, right? So you bite the sugarcane and then and then you just take the liquid in, right? You suck that, right? Or as I said, the sour mango is another example, right? So that is Chorshyam, right? The fourth type is Chorshyam, which is through the straw, right? So now you've seen 4: Bhakshyam, Bhojyam, Lehyam, and Chorshyam. The Chorshyam being something that is sucked, like the mango, etc., right? Like the rasalu mango, right? So honey is licking, right? So these are the 4 types, and these are what Bhagavan is referring here as Chaturvidam Annam Pachami, right? So basically the digestive fire is digesting all of this, and in our culture we in fact pray and we say Annam Brahma Raso Vishnu Bhokta Devo Maheshwara Iti Sanchintya Bhunjana Hyena Doshaihi Na Lityate, right? So basically the creative energy in the food is Brahman, the nourishing energy in the body is Vishnu, the transformation of food into pure consciousness is Shiva. If you know this, any impurities in the body you eat will never become part of you. Very useful for preventing food poisoning, etc. If we are able to remember this and chant this, right? And this itself is a very important verse, right? So extremely important. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva, before our food, generally this is chanted, right? And Bhagavan is everything, basically. He is in the form of the digestive juice also, right? Very, very important. If you can't chant the entire 15th chapter, at least chanting the 14th verse before lunch or dinner is very, very good, right? Continuing. सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टः सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टः मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव विद्यः वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वैद्यः वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम् वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम्. So not only in the creation, all transactions are happening and all the agencies involved in the transaction, right, are none other than Bhagavan himself. So he says, even in a Vedanta class, everything involved is none other than Bhagavan. Right? The truth we want to know is none other than Bhagavan, especially the Paraprakriti that we want to know is the Bhagavan, and the Guru, the Adi Guru who initiated this teaching, that Adi Guru is also the Bhagavan, and ultimately every student who tries to know the truth is also Bhagavan only. Sarvam Ishwaramayam Jagat is described here. Sarvasya Chaham Hudi Sannivishta. That Bhagavan that you want to know, he is presented, right, in the very first shloka as the root, Urdhva Moola Madashakam, root of the entire creation, the truth of the entire creation, which we want to know is not something beyond somewhere, but the truth is in the heart of everyone. That Jagat Karanam Ishvara is within my own body, within my own mind, in the form of the very Sakshi Chaitanyam, consciousness. Therefore, Bhagavan says, Sarvasya Hridi, Hridayam here means the heart, and the heart means the mind. In the mind, I am there as a changeless witness of the changing thought. I am the changeless witness of the changing thought. The first thought arises, I am able to witness that. The first thought goes away, I am there to witness the disappearance of the first thought. Then the second thought comes, right? I am the witness, right? Then the second thought goes away, right? So, the non-arriving, non-departing witness of all the arrivals and departures of the thought is the changeless consciousness, and that is none other than myself, Krishna says, right? So he said in the 10th chapter already, Aham Atma Gudatesha Sadhubhutastas Asayastitaha, right? He is reinforcing here. I am the Atma, right? Outside the body, the consciousness is called Brahman, but the very same Brahman is called Atma, right? Mattaha smritirjnanam ahohanam cha. And because of my presence alone, all events are happening in life. Jnanam smritihi ahohanam. As I wake up in the morning, I get the experience of various things continuously. Through what? Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Right? Every jnanam that I get is because of the consciousness principle alone. In the presence of consciousness, when the thoughts arise in the mind, it becomes knowledge. I look at the wall thought arises in the mind. Consciousness along with wall thought results in wall knowledge. I turn to the other side, there is a carpet. Carpet thought arises in the mind. Consciousness along with the carpet thought is called carpet knowledge. Thus, every knowledge is possible because of me alone. Mattaha jnanam, and once the jnanam is gone, right? It is over. The very thought remains in the form of a registered imprint in the mind, and later when the imprint is activated, it becomes memory. When I experience, it is called knowledge. Later, when we activate the imprint in the mind, it is called memory. So, like you record, right? And then replay, right? So, when you record, it is called jnanam, and when you replay, it is smriti, right? So, jnanam becomes memory, and the activated thought alone with consciousness is called memory. Therefore, knowledge also requires consciousness, memory also requires consciousness, right? So, after some time, the memories get faded also, right? So, it happens. So, what happens? With time, the fading also happens, which is nothing but slowly forgetfulness, right? Now, the forgetfulness also is known because of consciousness only. The same consciousness is the witness of the forgetfulness also. Therefore, knowledge happens because of Atma, memory happens because of Atma, the forgetfulness also happens because of Atma. Therefore, he says, Mattaha smriti jnanam apohanam cha, right? And he just says that one commentator says there are just three states of the experience, right? Jnanam is waking state in which we gather fresh knowledge, and memory is dream state because in dream we don't gather any fresh knowledge. Whatever is registered is replaying. One of the commentators says this. Therefore, smriti means swapnavastha. So, jnana means jagrata avastha, and when you go to deep sleep state, right, neither knowledge nor memory also. Therefore, apohanam refers to sushupti avastha. Thus, all the three states of experience are possible because of what? Avattat sakshi aham. Therefore, mattah smriti jnanam apohanam cha, and vedaishcha sarvaihi ahameva vedyah. All the scriptures are only revealing me, the Lord, and the glories of the Lord. So Veda Purva Bhaga talks about the Saguna glories of Ishvara. Veda Anta Bhaga talks about the Nirguna Ishvara, all the glories, right? Therefore, Vedishcha Sarvaihi Ahameva Vedyaha. I am the one that is discussed everywhere. And Krishna said, I am the one who started the Vedic tradition also. Narayanam, Padmabhuvam, Vasishtam, Shaktim, Chatatputram, Parasaram, Cha, Vyasam, Sukham, Gaudapadam, Mahantam. We say that. Beginning from Bhagavan, the tradition flows. Even now, the Guru Shishya Parampara is alive. The proof is we are able to learn this Gita teaching, right? So, Guru, Veda with Veda, Shishya also, the Guru also, the Adi Guru, right? Therefore, Jivatma Rupena, Paramatma Rupena, Adi Guru Rupena, cha, I am in this spiritual scene. Therefore, Sarvam Aham Asmi. This is the message, right? So, we'll continue in the next class and we'll maybe do the summary also in the next class. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. There is a question here. It is the same consciousness that has divided itself into so many, and these many has to go back to the source. What is the purpose of this play? Yeah, this I think I explained many times. Let me try and give an answer briefly. Basically, there is all of them don't go back to Paramatma. You must remember that. It is only when there is Aikyam, when there is moksha, this Aikyam happens. Otherwise, Jiva is Anadi, right? Karma is Anadi. So as per the law of karma, you will have continuous birth and rebirth, and this consciousness which is enclosed or reflected, right, will be permanently or anadi, eternally there along with the jiva. Only thing is the sthula shariram gets destroyed, right, and it gets cremated or buried, and then the sukshma shariram and karma shariram move on. But the chidavasa or the reflected consciousness is not going back to the Paramatma. Everybody's reflected consciousness is not going back to Paramatma. Only the ones who are able to achieve jnanam, who are able to realize this truth, the essential truth, satyam, are able to have aikyam and realize aikyam. Right? So they are the liberated ones. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands raised. Okay. Geeta, please go ahead.
Hari Om, ma'am. Could you just repeat the Chaturvidam Bhakshyam that which you said in Sanskrit? Chushyam.
Yeah. One second. I just it is Bhakshyam, Bhojyam, Lishyam, and Choshyam. Basically, solid, liquid, something that is lit, and something that is sucked. These are the four.
Bhakshyam, Lehyam.
One second. Let me just quickly give you the exact ones. Which one was first? Yeah. Yeah. The first one is Bhakshyam.
Bhakshyam.
Right? Bhakshyam. Second is Bhojyam. Okay. Bhakshyam, Bhojyam, Bhojyam, liquid food.
Bhojyam.
And then third one, Lehyam.
Okay.
And then the third one is Choshyam.
Choshyam.
Yeah, Choshyam. I think the dhatu is Chush.
Chush dhatu.
Choshyam. Choshyam is Sar.
Okay.
And,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Lehyam semi.
Yeah, exactly that. Lehyam. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we
Thank
say
you,
food by eating, drinking, chewing, and sucking? Yes, yeah, somewhat like that. Chewing, basically it's more viscose, right? That honey kind of thing. Those are the four ones. Yeah.
Honey.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? No. Okay, so we will meet next week. So, hello.